In a search, I came across sports people that had died by suicide who had CTE. When I read the symptoms, I thought, oh my goodness, that's Dan to a T.
This has been some response by Australia. What a tackle! Dan Vickerman used to be 6'8", he's now 3'4". He was cut in half by that tackle.
It is with sadness that I won't be playing anymore, but in saying that, I've been pretty fortunate in my career over the last sort of 10 to 12 years. I've thoroughly enjoyed my time. I never thought I'd play one test for my country, and each and every time I've had the opportunity to play with my teammates has been unique and special for me.
This is the story of Dan Vickerman, a towering figure in Australian rugby, but also a son, a teammate and a man whose life was cut tragically short. Dan's mum Val takes us back to the beginning. She shares how Dan's love for rugby started as a boy in South Africa and the incredible path it took him on, all the way to playing for the Wallabies.
Dan went to Bishops in Cape Town and he started playing rugby in year 3. He always wanted to play for the first team, which he did succeed in doing. After school, Dan went to England and played at Cheltenham Rugby Club. There was an international exchange between Australia, New Zealand, South Africa. Players went from those countries to Cheltenham Rugby Club. And Dan met 3 players in Cheltenham who persuaded him to go to Brisbane. And he played at Brisbane University Rugby Club and partnered Nathan Sharp. He went to Sydney Rugby Club and he was then chosen to play for Australia under 21. And then after a year at Sydney Uni, he was contracted to play for the Brumbies. And that was really the start of his rugby career. Would he have changed anything? I don't think so. I think he truly loved his years playing rugby.
Behind the achievements and the public success, there were struggles that no one could see. Val talks about the final years of Dan's life and the troubling changes she noticed. Searching for answers, Val discovered something she'd never heard of before: CTE, a brain disease linked to repeated head trauma. That discovery took her on a journey she never expected.
Suicide, unfortunately, brings lots of guilt. It brings lots of questions. Why didn't I? Could have, would have, should have, all of those questions. And you're always looking for an answer. In a search, I came across sports people that had died by suicide who had CTE. And at the time, there was quite a lot of research at the Boston University it was gridiron, I think it was. And when I read the symptoms, I thought, oh my goodness, that's Dan to a T. What were the symptoms? Well, there was anxiety, there was depression, there were mood swings, there were personality changes, little things that wouldn't worry you or I, or wouldn't have worried him in the past, suddenly became very big things. Insomnia were some of the things. And those are, when you read people that have been through it or are going through it, those are the symptoms really. When you suffer with depression or anxiety or insomnia, the nights are very difficult times. And because my mum lived overseas, there was a time difference. And so he often used to chat to her at night.
I've had my turn. I'll just be supporting them. I'll be their number 1 fan, and I'm looking forward to seeing them do well because I'm such a proud Wallaby, and not tough. I've had my turn. It was just the body said no to me now, unfortunately, but that's what it is. You get on and move on.
There was an article in the paper about the Sydney Sports Brain Bank that Dr. Michael Buckland had started. He had also been working in conjunction with Boston University and then decided to start the brain bank in Sydney. We contacted Michael and went to see him. At the time when Dan died, brains in Australia were not being examined for CTE. And in fact, those that were in the beginning went to America anyway.
CTE is a brain disease linked to repeated head knocks, but right now it can only be diagnosed after death. Sydney University student Joanna New is working to change that, studying a protein called tau to find a way to detect CTE in living brains. Her research, supported by the Dan Vickerman Scholarship, brings hope of answers for athletes and families around the world.
I personally am looking at trying to understand the molecular signature of CTE. So my PhD project is taking what we do understand about the lesions in CTE and trying to produce a marker so that we can look at those lesions in the living brain. We're looking at the protein in the brain of someone with CTE. There's a protein that misfolds called tau, which causes the disease, and that pattern of misfolded tau deposition is very unique in people with CTE versus other neurodegenerative diseases or healthy individuals. So we want to utilize that uniqueness of the misfolded protein to be able to implement some sort of imaging test eventually. So that might look like medical imaging one day. Our understanding of CTE has definitely grown massively in the last few years. I think as a research community, we're really stepping together to try and work towards having something that's more definitive. I think the big issue at the moment is there's nothing definitive for people who might currently be living with CTE. So that incidence, without anything for visualizing CTE in a living brain, there's nothing definitive. We can't study the incidence of CTE, nor can we develop any treatments or management strategies for those living with CTE. So I think we're definitely working towards and getting closer, and our understanding is probably at the peak of what it ever has been at the moment. And so that's why projects like mine are really great for trying to push progress in that direction for these athletes.
She's trying to figure out a way of diagnosing this in life, because currently CTE can only be diagnosed in death, which it's not very good if you can only diagnose it in death. Diagnosing it in life, the treatments could be found. And also it gives people who are suffering with CTE a way of knowing that they're not going mad, that they actually do have an illness or have a condition or whatever you want to call it.
I've been very fortunate to play in the teams that I have, and I look forward to watching the guys on the sideline now, not feeling bruised and battered on a Sunday morning. And I think it's been a massive part of my adult life playing rugby, and it's been a time that I look back only with fond memories.
I think he would be very pleased to help others. In a search, you very often find an answer, and research grants are just research grants, but very often they do provide an answer, and we are hoping that an answer is provided. My favourite memory, when he was about a 2-year-old little boy, and we had 2 neighbours, Dolly and Vi, and they used to call him Daniel in the lion's den. And he wasn't a lion, he was a gentle giant.